Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we are continuing our topic on reproductive systems under sexual reproduction, and we'll be talking about reproductive systems in flowering plants. So today we'll continue that topic, and today we'll be talking about the position of the ovary. We can have different types of flowers based on the position of the ovary. Now, a flower can be described as hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. Those are the three types of flowers we can have based on the position of the ovary and also on the receptacle with respect to the other flower plants rather. So it's the position of the ovary in respect to the other flower parts and the receptacle. That's what decides what group we put the flower, whether hypogynous, perigynous, or epigynous. Now let's talk about the differences between those three types of flowers. So we could have a hypogynous flower. Examples of the hypogynous flowers are the hibiscus and magnolia. Hibiscus flower and magnolia flower. Now this flower, the position of the ovary, it is called a superior ovary. This is because the flower parts arise from the receptacle at the same level as the ovary or below it. So the flower parts of the flower arise from the receptacle, and they are usually either at the same level as the ovary or below the ovary. So that's why we say the ovary is superior ovary. So that kind of flower is called a hypogynous flower. Then we could also have a perigynous flower. Now the perigynous flower, we have example as the rose flower, and the position of the ovary of the perigynous flower is half inferior ovary. Now in a perigynous flower, the reason why we call it half inferior ovary is because the receptacle is cup shaped. It is shaped like a cup. The receptacle is shaped like a cup. So the outer floral parts appear to be above the central ovary. So the flower parts seem as if they are above the central ovary. So we call that kind of flower perigynous, and the position of the ovary is called half inferior ovary. Then the third type of flower we have based on the position of the ovary is the epigynous flower. And examples of the epigynous flower, we have canna and we have guava. So the flower of those plants are epigynous. And the position of the ovary of epigynous flowers is the inferior ovary. And the inferior ovary, the ovary is completely embedded in a fleshy receptacle so that all the other floral parts are above it. So that is the type of ovary we have in the epigynous flower. So the types of flowers based on the position of the ovary, we have the hypogynous flower, the perigynous flower, and the epigynous flower. The hypogynous flower, we have the superior ovary. The ovary is either at the same level as the floral parts or the ovary is above the other floral parts. Then we have the half inferior ovary. The receptacle of the flower is shaped like a cup. So the outer floral parts appear to be above the central ovary. So the parts of the flower just appear to be above the ovary. So we call that half inferior ovary. Then the inferior ovary, the ovary is completely embedded in the receptacle. So all the other floral parts are above it. So we call that inferior ovary. And we have the hypogynous, the perigynous, and the epigynous flowers. So those are the types of flowers based on the position of the ovary. So the next thing we want to talk about is the arrangement of ovules in an ovary, or placentation. Now, when we're talking about the flower, the sexual reproduction of the flower, we talked about the fact that we have ovaries, and inside the ovaries we have ovules. Now, within the ovary, the ovules in an ovary can be arranged in different ways. So that is what we call placentation. Now, within an ovary, we have ridges of soft fleshy tissue that we call placentae, and the singular of placentae is placenta. So we have placenta in the ovary. Now the placenta may line the ovary, or it could be at the center of the ovary. Now the ovules are attached to the placenta. They are attached to short stalks called funicles. So we have the ovary, then we have the placenta inside the ovaries. Now the placenta may either line the ovary, it could be at the edges of the ovary, or it could be at the center of the ovary. Now the ovules are attached to the placenta by short stalks called funicles. Now as we said, the arrangement of the ovules in the ovary is what we know as placentation. Now we have various types of placentation depending on the type of flowers. So we have marginal placentation, we have parietal placentation, we have axial placentation. We also have basal placentation and superficial placentation. Now for the marginal placentation, the pistil in the marginal placentation is usually a monocarpous pistil. For example, we have that in the cowpea. So we have marginal placentation, and the type of pistil that is found in flowers that have marginal placentation, in ovaries that have a marginal placentation, is a monocarpous pistil. Then in the parietal placentation, the type of pistil that we have is a syncarpous pistil. An example of a plant with that kind of placentation is the pawpaw. Pawpaw is an example of a plant or a fruit with parietal placentation. Then we also have axial placentation. We have that in syncarpous. We have syncarpous pistils in plants that have axial placentation, and we have an example of such plants as the tomato. Then we also have basal placentation. And in basal placentation, we have a monocarpous pistil in flowers that have basal placentation. And an example of such flowers is sunflower. And the last type of placentation we have is the superficial placentation. And the type of pistil that is found in a plant with a superficial placentation is a syncarpous pistil, and it has the water lily as an example of a plant with a superficial placentation, or a flower with superficial placentation. We have water lily. So those are the types of placentation we have, or those are different types of arrangement of ovules in an ovary of a flower that we have. Now, still talking about the arrangement of ovules in an ovary. The compartment where the ovules lie is called the loculus, and the plural of that is loculi. So we have a compartment inside the ovary where the ovules are found, and that compartment is called the loculus. Now, in a monocarpous pistil, the ovary has only one loculus, while syncarpous pistils may have one or several loculi separated by partitions, or these partitions are called septa. So in syncarpous pistils, we could have one, or we could have two or three or several loculi, and each of these loculi are separated, or each of these areas where we're talking about the areas where the ovules lie, so they are separated by partitions called septa. Now, in some plants, the septa break down, resulting in one loculus. So it's depending on the type of pistil that would determine the type of placentation that a plant or flower has. So the type of pistil tells us the amount of loculus, or the amount of loculi rather, in a flower. And in monocarpous pistils, the ovary has one loculus. In syncarpous pistils, the ovary has one or more loculi separated by partitions that we call septa. So that's the end of the arrangement of ovules in an ovary. So the last thing we have to talk about in this video is the structure of the ovary. Now let's talk about the structure of an ovule. Now, a mature ovule consists of these following things. It consists of an embryo sac, as the first thing. Then apart from an embryo sac, it also has, within it, it has a mass of tissue, which is called the nucellus. And this nucellus is surrounded by two protective sheets, which are called the integuments. And also, in an ovule, we have a tiny opening, which is called the micropyle. So those are the things that are found in a mature ovule: an embryo sac, Then we have the nucellus and the integuments, and also we have a tiny opening that is called the micropyle. Now, the most important structure in the ovule is the gamete-producing embryo sac, which is haploid. Now, the most important structure in the ovule is the embryo sac, and the embryo sac is the one that produces the gametes, and the embryo sac is a haploid. Now, in most flowers, the embryo sac consists of these following things: one, an egg cell, and two other cells, which are called synergid cells, at the end near the micropyle. Then also, we have two polar nuclei at the center, and they usually fuse at some stage to give what we call to give a diploid cell. And also, we have three cells in the embryo sac, which are called the antipodal cells, and they are the end farthest from the micropyle. So they are the end of the embryo sac that is farthest from the micropyle. So with that, we've come to the end of today's video. In our next video or lesson, we'll be talking about flower diversity, the types of flowers we have based on different categories, based on different functions and structures. So our next video, we'll be talking about flower diversity. See you in our next video.